I think what's really interesting is sort of millennials kind of rose to prominence as a group, as a target, as a subject at about the same time that kind of digital and technology started to really infect the sort of general consciousness and the way that we all live our lives. And so the two are often conflated together, right? And it's often sort of assumed that you know, millennials only want digital experiences, they live online, they don't care about the real world. I mean, if you read the non-trade press, you see a lot of proclamation about the death of the high street and this idea that maybe physical retail is going to go away and you know, we'll all just order from Amazon Prime and have it in 2 hours and we'll never leave our sofa. And I mean, it's certainly, you know, e-commerce is growing and physical is shrinking slightly, but it's certainly never going to go away. And you know, you look at Amazon, they've literally just bought a giant physical presence in Whole Foods. They're probably going to, well, they were talking about buying Waitrose last week, although I actually think they're going to buy Morrison's. If that happens, you heard it here first. And you know, they are, the big boys are moving into physical retail, and even the brands that started as purely digital brands are now opening stores. And there's a very real argument to say that actually what people want is experiences. They want to see product. They do, you know, there's still value in a kind of fully 3D experience that you get in a physical space. But the trick is that you have to work out what physical is good for and come up with the right experiences to do in the physical world. And that's why when we see, you know, we see Maplin or Toys R Us and we see them implode, and there is a certain flavor of kind of CEO excuse for failed businesses that says, oh, you know, millennials don't do X, and X is whatever they happen to sell. So millennials don't buy toys, for example, not to pick on any one particular retailer. But that, to me, that's sort of a shorthand for saying that, you know, we didn't want to update our business for the last sort of 13 years. You know, that's really not, that doesn't cut it. And I think if you look at most of those experiences, I mean, I don't know if you went to a Toys R Us, it wasn't exactly a magical kingdom of fun, and they sell toys. I mean, it's not difficult, right? And the entertainers flying, and Smith's toys are flying. So it's, you know, it's really, I think millennials are a bit of a smokescreen, and technology is a bit of a smokescreen for. So augmented reality is going to be enormous. I don't think it'll be here in 5 years, but certainly within 10. So we're going to see augmented, so if you don't know, augmented reality is laying over kind of digital content into the physical world. At the moment, it requires sort of massive, basically Google Glass, if anyone remembers that, you wouldn't be seen dead walking down the high street with it. Within some say 5 years, but definitely 10, we'll have headsets that basically look like the glasses I'm wearing now. And that means that every space becomes a digital space. So you're in the supermarket, you can immediately see competitors' prices and allergen information and you know, recommended products and recipes and a call from your mum and all of these things all coming together. And so, again, it completely changes. You know, if you think people are bad now with walking around like this, imagine when you can't see that they're completely distracted. And that is definitely, we're definitely heading there, because we've proven that as soon as you give us technology, we just slurp it down. We cannot get enough digital. And so I think that will be a huge impact. I think the other thing is all around personalization. And I think rightly or wrongly at the moment there is a lot of fear about advertising and GDPR and Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. And I think what we are seeing though, and this is not just a millennial thing, you know, everyone we've now got the tools through digital to be much more personalized, right? I can do a campaign to 15 people and know that it's going to land. And I think, you know, we talk about marketing to millennials, there's what, 8.9 million millennials in the UK at the moment. I mean, any marketing strategy that's based on 9 million people is probably not impactful, right? So I think we're going to see increasing personalization. There's sort of a bit of a worry that everything we see now online is so intensely personalized to us. And my exact needs and my wants that actually I'm never challenged, I'm never provoked, and you know, I only ever see the things I want to see. So I think that's going to increase, but I think we're increasingly going to see a sort of a counterbalance to that. And that's, again, that's what I think the physical world is really good at, is presenting you with things that you wouldn't see in your feed, because it's right there in front of you, there's no way to avoid it. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to say you want smaller but higher quality, you know, targets your activities, but I think, to go back to your point as well, there's no point targeting these people if you haven't got a good story to tell them, and you know, just showing someone a relevant advert isn't really enough now. Like you said, you know, and the difference between having a really strong founder story and, you know, talking about the producers and the creators. Digital, again, is a really good way of sort of surfacing that. And even in the supermarket, you know, you can get someone on their phone, you can show them that video of where it came from. But you know, personalization and targeting on its own isn't just the answer. You have to have a really compelling way of actually making use of that. And to be honest, with GDPR and all of that sort of stuff, you have to have a really good, you have to already have that relationship. You can't now just harvest people's data. You have to already have a relationship with them. So you've got to give them something back to even target them in the first place. So again, I think it's really important that you've got that community, you've got that really good product. You know, again, this is all standard stuff, I think. We're just putting a new tech layer on top of it. I think there's two things at play. I think one, everything is now so interconnected. It's almost impossible. It's everything you do for the best intention. Like I literally read today that cotton tote bags are actually worse for the environment than plastic, single-use plastic bags, for all sorts of other reasons. And everything now is so interconnected, and you know, everyone's invested in everyone else. It's very, very difficult to make the right decisions because there's always some way that you'll trip up. And I think that's why, if you set out your stall as being you know, if you say we're the super ethical and that's our whole thing, it's so easy for you to slip up once. And then that's just punch. And of course, social media is around the world within an hour. It's a really tricky game to play. So if you're not actually living it, it's a very short-lived. You won't get very far with greenwashing, as it were. There are Twitter mobs that kind of get whipped up, and they don't have all the facts, and you know, and they're not necessarily always a force for good, but you know, we are exposing, you can't really get away with shady business practice anymore because someone will find out, and as soon as one person finds out, everyone does. And so I do think, you know, hopefully that is a force for good. I do think that we have to balance it with, you know, people get the wrong idea and then whip up 20 million people to tweet at someone, and that's a whole other issue. So, you know, this kind of, it gives with one hand and takes away with the other.